Everyone thinks that their pipeline is strong right up until it isn't. The problem isn't your team, it isn't your product, it's that the entire system was built to act too late. My guest today has built something completely different. This is the Anvil and Iron podcast. We're on a mission to introduce you to the innovative minds that are shaping the future of business. In every episode, we sit down with leaders who are forging new paths in business and beyond. So join us as we hammer out what's next in the world of business, one conversation at a time without the corporate fluff. Today, I'm joined by Brian Shea. He's a TEDx speaker, CEO of Lucrum Partners, and the architect of Signal-Led GTM. That's a framework that's fundamentally changing how B2B organizations think about when and how revenue growth actually happens. Brian, there's only one you in the world. Thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you into this space.
Joe, well, thank you. And first, hello to your audience, and really do appreciate the opportunity of connecting with you today. This is a great conversation and really timely with all of the noise that's in the market. So what got me to where I am? So for years, helping companies build pipeline, building a really big pipeline, building that really big pipeline that by the time you got it ready for the board, it seemed to magically change overnight, right? Deals you thought were coming in didn't come in, et cetera, et cetera. And I began starting to look at the research over time, which is what's happening. And we've all heard about buyer journeys and all of this, but I really believe that there was something else that was going on. And what we started really looking at was we were seeing on the commercial side, yes, we have all the metrics that continue to sort of nosedive, right? No new news. We were starting to also see research that was reflecting this declining in CEO confidence in their teams and confidence as it relates to execution. And so we saw these internal red lights that were going off, and we were seeing market red lights going off. And that's where we really began our journey to say, there's something here in the operational system that's not working. And that got us started on the work.
Very cool. So give us the elevator pitch for Lucrum. What problem are you solving? I think I've got an idea after spending a lot of time doing this, but why does it matter right now? And how are you going about solving that problem?
Yeah. So the elevator pitch is really simple. Commercial teams with the current playbooks and the current systems they have are just merely showing up too late. And that's being reflective in forecasts that seem to dissolve. The metrics that we talked about earlier are not getting any better. So what we help organizations do is rebuild their go-to-market engine. We call it Signal-Led go-to-market. Thanks for mentioning that earlier. And really shifting away from this sales versus marketing Hatfield and McCoy battle that's been going on forever around what's an MQL and not, and really powering the go-to-market engine through a Signal-Led technology platform.
Okay, so what kind of company is Lucrum Partners? I mean, are you a marketing company? Are you a sales company? Are you a hybrid of the two? Like, how do you even position yourselves?
Boy, I love that. That's a great question. When we started the firm years ago, it was really helping around sales performance, and that rendered itself around, what most companies are asking for. If I can't sell really good, give me some good training, right? I can't sell really good, give me some good coaching. And what we really started out as a go-to-market strategist, because we found that's where a lot of the noise began, is lack of clarity around go-to-market, and then helped with the playbooks and training around the go-to-market team. So that's where we started. And based on our learnings in the market about what this undertone was, began to advance our work to where we are today.
So talking about that undertone, what's happening inside of an organization? So we're not talking about, mom and pops that need to buy a new forklift or something like that. We're talking about accounts-based selling, right? Okay. So what's happening inside an organization that may be considering upgrading a system, changing out, making a purchase? What's happened before a vendor ever gets that call or gets the call accepted?
Boy, that's this $65 million question. That's where we're gonna upgrade that one. So the answer to that is first of all, our point of view and perspective is stop buying layered technology. Stop buying more stuff to throw at marketing and throwing at sales, because there's a great track record of organizations that have spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on sales training, sales technology, marketing technology, and the such. And all that's doing is adding more drag onto an operating system that's, quite frankly, it's extinct. And that operating system that we referred to, that we see inside of these organizations that are struggling, is they're still built off of a world of marketing. Your job is to go get us leads. Sales, your job is to go take these leads from marketing and bring them forward to a closed won event. That is not what's happening inside of the market today, because a couple of things that we've learned. Number one, everybody knows that buying organizations are way out ahead of sales organizations. They've been there forever. But the key is not getting in at the functional level inside of the organization that you're prospecting, meaning the head of a division, the head of a function, because they are sent and tasked to go fill the order from ELT. That's where all these intent signals come from, right? They're not formulating the need for the organization. They're in many cases being tasked to go buy something to solve a thing that the executive team has identified as being a priority problem to solve. And so when you chase that functional lead signal, that's where all these intent platforms really anchored in over the last, decade of creating intent signals for marketing to create leads off of. The challenge is everybody's there and it's a bit too late. And so our perspective is executive leadership teams need help in formulating exactly what the problem is, the underlying conditions that are preventing them from growth, revenue. It's impacting earnings per share. It's impacting, any of the key executive metrics. If we can help clients get to the table to have the conversation around the conditions and the attributes that are affecting growth, revenue, earnings per share, et cetera, we then can help clients enable a different conversation with their prospects, which is, let's help you solve that really hard growth problem, that really hard revenue problem, rather than sending in sellers with decks to go sell products.
Gotcha. Okay. So you've talked about responding to demand and versus shaping it, and that requires like a really different kind of seller. And can you give me an idea of like how signals are followed, and how your solution helps companies, helps sellers respond to those signals or monitor them so that they can then monetize them?
Yeah, great question. So first thing is, by the time an opportunity shows up in your pipeline, it's been formulated by somebody else, right? We've got to get we got to drop some truth bombs. So when you've got a seller that comes back into your organization today and says, I just talked to a company, they're interested in buying a thing, we're going to put that opportunity in our pipeline, and we're going to put together some arbitrary, win predictability.
Percent chance of closing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Finger in the wind. That entire opportunity, that opportunity for that seller to talk to that buying organization that door was opened by a competitor.
Right. Somebody
Somebody else has formulated the opinion inside of the buying organization, and now your sellers are showing up. So what changes, Joe, and this is a real seismic change in the operating system. So if you think about having intelligence that says this is the right time from a prioritization standpoint to go in and have this particular conversation with this particular group of executive leaders in this particular account around this particular topic, the person that you hire to go have that conversation is likely not the profile that most companies are hiring today to be a B2B seller, right? Just go, for anybody who's watching this, go over and pull up one of your job recs that's sitting on your website. What are you hiring for today? We need somebody with 10 years of experience, somebody who's used to building pipelines, somebody who's used to product experience, yada, yada, yada. You're hiring product-led sellers, right? Product-led sellers don't work in this operating model because the conversation is really more executive acumen, business acumen. It's the conversation of growth. It's the conversation of revenue. It's the conversation of ELT rather than buy my widget because my widget does the following. So signal-led go-to-market is not, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a technology that you just buy and plug in. It becomes it becomes the North Star for how organizations then think about what does the organizational design look like to today's sales and marketing, pre-sales, customer success versus a signal-led organization. What are the profiles of the people that we need to go execute on the plays, which are much different? And then finally, what do we measure, right? Because we don't measure pipeline as it relates to an opportunity anymore, but rather we begin to start measuring where are the signals that we're seeing inside of our marketplace that would then dictate prioritization for our teams to go engage. So this is a seismic shift, not because sellers need to do more. Actually, sellers need to do less. They need to do something different. And that's what signal-led go-to-market helps define.
All right. So let's make this a little bit more granular. You're talking about an operating system, right?
It is an operating system. That's
okay?
Correct.
Can you help me conceptualize this and make it a little bit more something I can touch? No corporate speak, even though I know yeah, okay. What is it that Lucrum Partners offers? Is it a playbook? Is it is it software? Is it, intellectual property? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's great. So in simple terms, it's this. Go-to-market strategies today are operating off of some North Star, right? With marketing, it's these MQLs, it's target account lists and the such. What we begin to help organizations recognize is that's the operating system of yesterday. So when we bring in a signal-led engine, which changes what companies can see in terms of what their addressable market is. And the real deal is this, there's only about 5% of these target account lists that are in the market at any given time. So why are you sending out sequenced emails to tens of thousands of people every day, right? So by turning on the signal engine, what it now gives is clarity for growth teams to say, wait a second. Instead of just praying and spraying to these large kind of groups in the market, now we've got refinement of, wow, not only are these people on our target account list and they're in the market today, but we're starting to see adjacent signals of companies that we didn't even think about calling on. So the signal light gets turned on first. The second thing that comes on the backside of that is it's not just the signals. We put in the box for our prospects, we put a signal analyst because this is all new. So we teach them how to analyze and action on those signals. And then finally, what, as mentioning earlier about helping organizations move through this maturity arc of building a different team that engages with the market, we help them with the changes that are necessary for organizational design, talent profiles, the plays that you run, the things that you now want to measure. And so it becomes this end-to-end delivery system that we help organizations stand up. So it's not technology, it's not sales training, it's not a sales playbook, but it is the operating system in a box.
Okay. So it's kind of this is the way we go to market. This is how we look for our potential buyers, right? This is how we engage with our potential buyers before they're even surfacing. Because as you mentioned, right, you got a salesperson, you used to say sales guy in the old days, right? You gotta say, I'm going to say it, I don't care because it could be anybody. So you got a sales guy that gets a call from a prospect and he puts that on his forecast sheet. Anybody getting a call from a prospect, they are just looking for number 2 and number 3 to, for their little, RFQ, RFP, or, they have to check the boxes. They've already decided what they're going to buy, right? So can you give me an idea? Let's get down even one layer more granular. What type of system do you see, maybe one of your best clients, what are they selling and what are some of the signal, and I don't mean the brand name, is it an ERP, is it whatever that this really locks in with kind of, it's the poster child for, for a white paper, what have you, and kind of what they might be looking and how they use that?
Yeah, there's so it's professional services company, I should say. And there's 2 quick learnings that they got off of being kind of turned on to signal led. Number 1, there were signals coming out of their existing accounts that they weren't seeing because they were using traditional account management. They were trying to do QBRs. They were never getting QBRs done, right? All of those old kind of motions. And so even with their account teams, they were showing up late at asking the questions around growth outside of the business unit that they were currently operating in. So imagine you've done all this work to land a client, you've been delivering good work, and right up the hall, there's opportunities that are starting to flare up, but your system is not built to listen for it, see it, or act upon it. So that was a first aha, which is, oh my gosh, there's actually opportunities in our account, in our client's account that we weren't even seeing before. So that was one flip of a switch. The second one was really refining of how activity happens, because as soon as we turned on and saw saw where the signals were coming from in the market of who you should be talking to versus who they were spamming, right? putting these
Right.
companies in the sequences, you saw this massive daylight between the two. And so this quick refinement of, well, we're doing all of this noisy, activity over here that's not rendering anything. And now we can start seeing why, because those customers that we're sending all this stuff to, they're not even in the market today. And so that quick clarity of, there's business opportunities in our existing accounts, and we're not firing at the right swimming hole. That's the wrong analogy, right? But we're not fishing in the right swimming hole for net new.
I love mixing metaphors.
That was terrible. That was terrible. Shameful. Yeah.
Well, listen, that's fine. It was kind of like a ground rule double that you kicked from the 30-yard line. No problem at all. So speaking of, kind of changing the game, how is AI doing that in terms of signal detection? And is there a risk that, once everyone's using, let's just say you get like, I'm guessing you're in the initial stages of getting this into the hands of the mass market as far as B2B, sellers are concerned. But, does the competitive advantage disappear, once everybody's using this?
So, Joe, come join me and let's make that the problem, right? Where
Sure.
everybody,
Yeah.
where everybody has shifted
Let me show you a whole new world.
Yeah. So there's two parts to that. Number one, it's incredibly difficult for organizations to change, right? You see that all the time with mergers, acquisitions, right? It's companies get paralyzed by it. So the change management part of shepherding companies through, we were really thoughtful of bringing in the right change management strategists to help us with clients, because this stuff's not easy. So at scale, when the majority of selling organizations have shifted to pre-intent, then it will come back to skill. It'll come back to product strategy. It'll come back to, other differentiators that get you to win. But today there's a great, unfair advantage to get to the table with senior executives before your competitors. That's an amazing, amazing benefit. AI. So there's all of these signals that are in the market today that you and I, if we had time and bandwidth and attention and, and such, we could begin to start looking for a lot of these signals. But it's around the signal mapping. It's about creating these indexes that create a priority window for organizations to say, okay, all these signals are coming in, and the technology today allows us to kind of bifurcate and organize like all these signals by the markets that you serve, and then say, okay, here's the prioritization list, right? Here's your first 3 that you ought to be chasing. Then we're going to tee up the next 5, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the technology really shines. It's not around, doing more, right? It's not about sending out more. It's not about creating more. It's just using the technology to gain the right clarity on where you should be spending your time.
Well, it's funny you say about, not necessarily doing more. A lot of people think that about AI, like from the negative mindset that people have about AI. And I like to think of it really differently. AI done well alleviates the menial and increases the meaningful. And yes, that AI alleviates the menial, increases the meaningful. So it sounds like that's what you're talking about. Okay, let's talk about the friction for you getting the word out. Like, okay, because what Lucrum specializes in is monitoring and monetizing signals from large organizations. It's very hard to find signals from, like the mom and pops. But a lot of your potential clients, your potential customers are mom and pops that are selling into big business. How are you finding those customers today? How are you drinking your own Kool-Aid?
Yeah, this is a fabulous question. So one of the objections we hear often is, well, we're not big enough to do that. And what we spend time kind of breaking down that as the, kind of emotional responses. It's less about the size of your organization and it's more about where you are hunting, right? So to your point, you can have, a recently funded, $25 million startup in the cybersecurity space that's going right after upper mid-market. And the answer is you give that company this kind of fuel, they can absolutely race by and run around some of the incumbents that are already in the market. So from that perspective, we do a little grounding with prospects. The marketplace in terms of signals, there are signals that are out in the public ether today, and they are kicked off by mid-market and upper mid-market, and of course, enterprise clients as well. There are so many signals that are out there that at any for any one of the signals, they're not actionable because you don't have all the context around it and you don't have the timing. But as they're put through the engine, they quickly formulate to a picture or a vision that becomes really clear for teams and gives actionable prioritization of this account, this set of executives right now. We give them the script, we show them where to go. We tell them what the story is, and off they engage. So it isn't like years ago of, well, we can't afford it because there's the seat licenses are so expensive, or the company requires us to have 1,000 seat licenses, or that we're not. This isn't that at all. This becomes the signal engine that then informs the rest of your commercial growth functions in how to operate successfully in the market.
So if you could wave a magic wand, right? And, and talking about that bold new world where it's the problem because so many people are using your, how do you find, what do your best clients look like and how do you find them today, or how do they find you?
Yeah. So, and thanks for mentioning earlier, just last month, I completed a TED Talk on this topic of signals. And what really resonated there's several hundred people in the room. What really resonated with many of the business owners is large and small. What they were saying was, at one section of the TED Talk, I talk about the decisions are made without your sellers in the room, right? And that landed really hard for a lot of the attendees. They were saying, to hear somebody else say it, it just confirms what we thought, which is, why don't we just don't feel connected to these deals that we're driving? And the answer is, you're not, right? You're not. So from that perspective, taking the time with prospects to teach them why, right? Because they see a lot of this stuff. They see the headwinds, they see the forecasts, and laying out some of the research data and evidence that begins to fill in this black hole that they've had, which is, I don't understand why it isn't working anymore. So we spend time with it. You asked about how do we get clients. We, knock on wood, the majority of our clients since our existence have come from referrals and other clients. And then obviously through my partner network, where we're going out and having these signal-led go-to-market conversations with prospects. I've got a great network of service providers I work with. So yeah, I'd love to be able to say, hey, here's the marketing angle that works. But actually we have been really diligent at delivering high quality service to our clients, always educating them on sort of what's coming new. And then the referrals come in when they say, I've got somebody who's having this challenge, you should talk to them.
What kind of partners do you have? I think you would like referring partners, or what did those organizations look like?
Yeah, so there's some real specialization that we want to make sure that we provide to our clients, and those are services such as change management consultants, real good ones, because this is that whole seismic change in an organization. We are not change management experts at Lucrum Partners, and I would never claim to be, but we help shepherd through executive teams on exactly how to do this, because we want them to lead with authority and lead with confidence in their organizations as they're making these changes. So that's one of those examples of where we would bring in a partner organization.
Great. Well, listen, this has been a fantastic conversation, Brian. You've given our listeners, generally a genuinely different lens. One of the challenges, a lot of assumptions that sellers have, right, about how revenue growth actually happens, who's in the room when the decisions are being made, and how most sales reps are usually sitting in the back seat of the car, and that's probably in the best case. Usually they're probably in the trunk. If there's one thing that you want a CEO or a revenue leader that's listening today to actually do differently starting tomorrow, what would it be?
Don't jump in. Don't change overnight. Connect with us. We've got a series of research and white papers that really break this down as to the why it's happening and how you can move from your current operating state to a future operating state. Let's educate you on how we get this done first, because it's a thing that you haven't done before. If you've gone out and bought new sales tech or marketing tech or something like that, it's not a buy it and plug it in. So we would love to sit down with you and the rest of the executive growth team and really lay this out and show you what it looks like.
Well, where can our listeners follow your work, learn more about Lucrum Partners? Make sure we spell out the website and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Well, so we'll start with the last one. We are Lucrum, Lucrum Partners with an S on the end, .co. So you can connect with us there at our site. Follow me on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn. I do a lot of content sharing. I bring a lot of stuff in from partners and such to sort of lay out there the evidence and the examples for followers and connections to see. So, and if there's something you don't see on there, you can go ahead and send me a direct message and I will get you that information and walk you through it, because it's a perfect time to change your operating model.
All right. Well, listen, this has been great. Thanks for joining us. Hey, quick lightning round. What's the most underrated business skill in your opinion?
Wow, this is a good one, Joe. Thanks. Lightning round, I would say, would be change.
Change, underrated. Okay. How about an AI trend that you're really excited about?
Signal-led go to market.
Sure. What do you love doing outside of work?
This is I have decided that my golf clubs will not have the same level of rust on them that they've had the last few years. So, but I'll let you know in about a month how that's working out.
All right, sounds good. And then lastly, what's one thing that you'd automate in your work life, or if you could wave a magic wand and just get rid of the friction?
Yeah. So the friction to me, when I mentioned change earlier, we're bringing new technology into our firm to just make things simpler and easier for sort of back of the office, and that's taught me to change.
Great. Well, thank you, Brian.
Joe, thank
Brian
you.
Shea of Lucrum Partners for joining us on the Anvil and Iron podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who's looking to sharpen their skills or maybe looking to get in on the action earlier in the sales cycle before anybody else is actually aware of it. Until then, we'll see you next time on the Anvil and Iron podcast, where we're talking to the innovators that are forging new paths in business and beyond.